What are you looking for out of the fall? Is it a lot of installation or just like adjustment and improvement in terms of, just meeting players and learning things? What's your biggest goals to get out of the fall?
Yeah, really good question. There's a lot to accomplish. We have a lot of work to do. You mentioned the word installation. I would say establish our way of doing things. A lot of coaches would use the word culture. For us, we want to operate and function at a high level. Therefore, we need to learn how to do that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, we had a really good month of September relative to individual player development. Some of that's off the field relative to strength and conditioning. Some guys changing their bodies so they can function better on the field. Then there's individual player development plans that we have in place that we have to go to work on relative to swing adjustments, pitching delivery adjustments, and we'll carry that forward. And then probably this next phase, which is the most important, is developing an identity for our team, or what I would call a process of winning. And so seeing how some of those pieces fit in doing that, learning the roster, maybe who can and who can't do certain things. And then ultimately that will help us put players in position to be successful. We're certainly not ready to play a game right now, but what we talk about to the players is being ready to compete. So I'm anxious to see them in a little bit more of a competitive environment as we go through that and see how they respond.
Coach Johnson, Mike Scarborough with TigerBait.com. Last month, you did some things that we had never seen before. You were hosting camps every weekend. I think you were maxing them out at 20. You had recruits from all over the country that were a part of those 20. How many of those did you have? How fruitful was it? And like I said, it's something we've never seen before, and it looks like it might have paid a lot of dividends for you.
Yeah, we had 3 camps over the weekends in September, and it's just a good opportunity to get young players a chance to get familiar with our program, get familiar with our university, get familiar with our coaching staff. And so they were very successful. I was very pleased with the turnout. I was very pleased with the productivity of those camps. And, we're going to do everything within NCAA rules. And so there's a certain way and process you have to do that nowadays. And that's kind of what that was about.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. This is Glenn West with LSU Country. Good to talk to you again. I guess talk about this pitching staff a little bit. I know you guys welcome in some new arms and obviously some really good returning arms as well. Just what are you hoping to learn about this staff, I guess, as the weeks progress here in the fall?
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do relative to finding some of that out. I think what we did first off is we have given them 6.5 weeks to get themselves ready to step on the mound in a competitive environment. We're always going to put their arm health and arm safety first. And so not knowing where every guy was coming in, obviously since we're taking over new, we wanted to give them appropriate time. All of them have been off the mound 4 times prior to or leading up into their first inter-squad experience this week. So we feel good about where they're at health-wise. We feel good about where they're at conditioning-wise. Now it's about finding out how they compete a little bit and whose stuff plays in a certain way. We are nowhere near naming guys that are candidates for the rotation or the key guys you go to when the game is on the line. And that will evolve over time. I think looking at all the entire weekends in the fall, all of them will throw 7 times competitively in the fall, and then probably 5 times, leading up to the season when we return in January and February. So there's going to be a lot of information collected. My initial observations in watching bullpens, and again, the bullpen is a different environment in the game, but I'm very pleased with the strike throwing ability of the staff right now. And if you can start there, then you can start building pieces and how they align and match up. So early indications are good as far as them throwing strikes, low strikes, moving the ball in and out, and changing speeds with their breaking balls and changeups.
Coach David from Rivals. Going in a little in depth here about Jacob Berry for me for a second. He comes in with a lot of fanfare, but he knows what Jay Johnson wants from a coaching staff. How much have you relied on him to kind of be your conduit of, hey guys, this is what we want to do, and this is the kind of winning atmosphere, and this is how we're going to go about it? And then on top of that, what kind of player is he overall for people who maybe have not seen him play?
Yeah, I think there's certainly an advantage, relative to any player that's played for us before when they come into this environment, maybe a little bit of an idea of what to expect. And I'm sure, some of his other teammates are leaning on him and Riley Cooper and Bryce Collins for those types of things. Matter of fact, when Riley came on his recruiting visit, he was joking that the players were asking him more questions about me than typically the recruit asking, about the school. So all those guys are hard workers, Jacob included. He's here at the facility all the time, working on his own. I think that's the first thing I would say. He's incredibly competitive. He's incredibly driven to be the best player that he possibly can be on both sides of the ball. And so all of that, I think, is a positive for us. A, he improves as a player. B, he's emulating behaviors that we want all of our players to exhibit, which is to work smart, work hard, be here on your own. We only have so many hours relative to NCAA limits and those types of things. And we want to create a way of doing things, as I said, where these guys are here on their own, putting in productive time to improve themselves as players. And he does a really good job of that himself. And I think that's something that I've casually noticed has been very good, throughout our team for the first month. And that's a really positive thing.
Hi, Coach Ed Daniels in New Orleans. How impatient are you when it comes to what you're trying to get done here?
Well, that's a good question. I really believe in the value in every day. And a lot of coaches will talk about process. What we try to do is define the process for the players and give them a roadmap to being the best player they can be and to being the best team we can ultimately be. So you can't rush that part of it. In the fall and looking at what we want to do, I would say we want to cut things in half and master those things. I think sometimes, something I've learned is I want to do too much too fast relative to trying to get everything done, and then you water down the quality of that. I think what we'll do is we'll focus on the things that happen in the games the most that are relative to winning and having success, and really be good at those things. And then I think over time we'll start to expand, but we're not going to expand until we have handles on the very basic fundamentals of winning. And so in that regard, you have to be patient, okay? But by doing it that way, you can see constant improvement. And I really like some of the pieces relative to the talent, but we can't short circuit what we want on a daily basis. For instance, we're playing our first inter-squad game tomorrow night. We're not ready to play a game yet, as I said. However, we do need to see players in competitive environments, how they respond, strengths and weaknesses, and that will give us a good roadmap for what we need to do to go forward. So when the season comes, we're putting our players and our team in the best position to be successful. And so by doing it that way, I've had a lot of success in that regard, and that's something that we'll continue to approach it that way here.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, it's Cobble. You had mentioned strength conditioning in your introductory press conference. I was just curious how that was going, and what do you hope that new implementation of procedures and expectations does for you?
Yeah, I think that's very valuable in a lot of ways. Number one, you turn on these Major League Baseball games, the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Dodgers and the Cardinals, and you look around that field, and obviously it's the most highly skilled players in the world, but they are big and they're fast and they're physical and they move well. And so if our players want to attain being a major league player someday, they have to put the hay in the barn in that regard. And from a program standpoint, we are going to make it a priority. It helps them improve, which helps us improve. But then there's a little bit of a blue-collar work ethic to that I want our teams to be known for. And I think the weight room can really help you. I think they've worked hard. We've been doing a lot of it in the morning time for a number of reasons, mainly to give the pitchers separation from when they lift to when they throw so that they can put themselves in position to stay healthy and to stay strong. And then for the position players, we're trying to create arm speed, bat speed, and running speed. And what the work we do in there can help them do that.
Hey, Coach TJ Polk with Tiger TV. My question for you today is, what have been some things that may have caught you by surprise, whether that be within the team or within the program this far? What are things that you've liked in the interaction that you've had with the players and the coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, everything's been positive so far, TJ, but we haven't been tested or we haven't been challenged yet. And when it's good, it's easy to be doing the right things. I'm pleased with the players' willingness to be coached. Very impressed with their energy for what we're doing on a daily basis. This week, Monday, we kind of simulated a team practice with part of our 8-hour week leading into our 20-hour week starting on Friday. And it was off the charts in terms of enthusiasm and players bouncing around and those types of things. I think that's all really, really positive. Easy to do when you're early in the fall or early in the season. The key will be, can we emulate that, as we're into practice 24, 25, and 26, or as we're into the middle of the season. So I've been very impressed with their enthusiasm. I've been very impressed with their coachability, as I would say.
Coach, I know we can't speak specifics about specific recruits, and I totally understand that. But I want to get your thoughts on kids on the high school level, because it is happening in terms of signing NIL deals even before they get to college. Your overall thoughts on that? Are you a fan of that? Are you not a fan of that? What's going on there, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's a new time, and I think it's a real positive thing that's happening right now, because when a player that comes to LSU, that player that's coming to play for our program ultimately wants to be a major league player. And the sell in coming to college is for them to create value for themselves by what they do in college so that they can go achieve their dream of being a major league player someday. Well, there is some delay in gratification of money and financial factors when they choose to do that. So for them to have the opportunity to do that, my hope is it accentuates itself enough to where that player doesn't feel like they have to go take that signing bonus out of high school. And by doing that and maybe having some flexibility or freedom to earn some money while they're in college on their name, image, and likeness, which we have a great platform here at LSU, it might steer some of those players towards college. And that's a great thing for us at LSU, and that's a great thing for college baseball. And I really believe in this path of development and not signing out of high school. So it's a really good thing for most of the players as well.
Hi, Coach. I'm Leah. I'm from The Advocate. It's nice to meet you over Zoom. I was wondering if you could speak to your relationship with Dylan Cruz so far, and what you hope and see his role on this team being, and what he needs to do to also play baseball at the next level.
Yeah, great start to that relationship with Dylan. Obviously, I was familiar with him. I was one of the best freshmen in the country last year. Tremendously talented. I mean, he can do things on the field that you don't see very often in college baseball players. Usually players with that kind of ability sign out of high school. So I commend Dylan. I commend his family for taking the college path to LSU for his development. So the talent really, really stands out. What I have really noticed and really liked and really appreciated is he seems to be highly respected by his teammates. And that is not just because he is obviously a good player, but how he goes about things, works extremely hard in the weight room, appears to be very selfless. Again, as I mentioned with Jacob before, he's a player that's at the facility all the time. And there's guys sometimes that are just wired different in that regard. Like, they wake up every day on purpose to be the best they can be. And again, that's going to be great for our team when you have really good examples out of your best players operating that way. That commands a lot of respect from the team, and it's easy for your teammates to get behind you when you work that way. So very solid initial impressions of Dylan.
Guys, we have time for one more question for Coach.
We're a couple months into this thing, and most of the guys that I've talked to that have been on the team prior to your arrival said that they liked that you had a plan for them. I'm just curious how, now that you're kind of past getting to know each other stages, is that progressing for both sides of the party? Obviously, your expectations for them, but them kind of benefiting from your.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, the coachability thing appears to be a strength of this group and being very eager to learn and eager to improve. Every player that I've ever coached has always wanted to be good. I think what I'm seeing so far is a willingness to, for lack of a better term, buy into the process of developing players that we take our teams through. The buy-in from these players right now is really, really strong. And I think it will be tested as we go along in the fall, and you get some failure, some positives, and can they stick with it? Because, development is a slow burn. Our players will hear me talk about wanting to improve 1% on a daily basis. And if you do that over a long period of time, the player is going to transform and be a lot more productive for your team. And so we're in the middle of that, but that has to start with trust and buy-in. What I want them to see from our coaching staff is high effort, high energy, high competency, but that's all that we can provide. I mean, the work part of it has to be provided by them, and we're off to a really good start in that, and really excited to get into team practice to take that a step further. All right, thank you guys.